is an interesting topic for our session today. We're focusing on the Beyond Graduate School platform. Beyond Graduate School is a wonderful one-stop shop for master students to really take advantage of a structured career and professional development platform. And so what I'm going to do as part of this session is basically walk you through some of the key steps of the Beyond Graduate School platform. So we're on the Career Services website right now. The easiest way, I think, to get there is to go to the Who Are You, because most of you are going to be master students. And then when you get to the master students page, the Beyond Graduate School platform is one of the top resources that we have here for you. But for now, let's jump on to the Beyond Graduate School platform. I signed in already. What you will do is you'll see a drop down of organizations. The University of Pennsylvania will be one of those organizations. You'll just sign in with your pen key and password. So Beyond Graduate School is a platform that we subscribe to at Career Services. So we pay money for this so that master students have access to this. And what's great about this platform is that for a long time, there were lots of resources for undergraduate students related to careers. There are lots of a growing number of resources for PhDs and postdocs as they are navigating their career path. But there aren't necessarily too many resources specifically for the master's student experience. And one of the reasons is master students tend to be very diverse in terms of the programs that you're studying, the nature of what a master's degree is. 1 year, it's 18 months, 3 years, it's professional focus, it's broad. There are many diverse aspects to it, many variables that are sometimes challenging to sort of unify. What this platform does really well is it understands that the majority of people taking a master's degree want a good return on their investment for this graduate study, right? They want it to be able to take this master's program and turn it into something that has an impact on their professional identity and their career next steps. And so the resources on this platform tend to center your next steps around making sure that you're making the most of the master's program. Once you're on this page, I'm just going to sort of navigate what sort of the main areas. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think this is a great resource to sort of add into your repertoire. Then we're going to do a deeper dive into some of the things that you can focus on as part of that. So from this homepage, there is a couple of things to focus on, right? They have the job search strategy section, which are basically questions that people have. What this platform does well is it sort of anticipates the fact that master students are coming in at different points in their programs, which are at different lengths, and have immediate needs for information, right? So if you're in a 1-year program at Penn, your recruiting at Penn starts, the first week that you've arrived, because your sort of timer is ticking, as it were. So the job search strategy are just key questions that you want to focus on. The deep dives, on the other hand, are sort of the structured approach to understanding how to position yourself for all of these different paths, making the most of your time at Penn, finding a career, so the exploration part, LinkedIn and networking, sort of walking you through those different stages, and then the job search itself, the finding and applying for jobs, and the interviewing, right? So this is a great place to sort of make sure that if you have time, you're walking through the different steps. What do you need to move forward? So these are topic-based areas, right? So if you have a quick question on a resource on a topic, this is where you might go for that. They've identified some of the popular sessions that they have, and then they have this assessment. They call it a quick assessment, but it's 23 questions, so I'm not going to go through it for you right now. But if you're sort of just trying to situate yourself on this platform and sort of say to yourself, what is going on? What can I do to sort of make the most out of this? Then this assessment is going to be a good starting point, right? It's going to situate you in that space in terms of what your next steps are on that platform. And then we'll talk about events later, but they have regular events to sort of keep these things top of mind. The Career Video Library, right, is another place that we'll spend a little time in a second. But this is a library of 144 interviews with people with master's degrees from different institutions and different backgrounds who are now out there in the world doing some of the things that they focus on here, so the different career fields. What's great about this as a resource is that this is networking without you having to actually have any conversations with people, right? Networking is critical and it's a really important part. Not everyone has excitement about having conversations with strangers. These conversations, these pre-recorded conversations, are a great starting point, right? They will give you some of the information about career paths that you're interested in, but they will also show you how networking conversations can happen, right? So what you will need to do in your own networking as you're reaching out to people, the types of questions that you can ask, the types of information that you can be looking for. So even if you're just trying to get the hang of what networking looks and feels like, some of these conversations, and they're about 15 minutes each or so, are great sort of starting points. But you'll also find actionable insights that you can use as part of your own career next steps. The reason we want people to use this platform, obviously, is because we pay money for it. So it's a great investment for us to make sure that people are using it, but also because it's here 24/7, right? So all of these topics that are covered on this platform are things that we do in our graduate career skills week in other areas, but this is accessible to you at any point in time. And I think because you're busy and some of you have programs that require you to be busy during the day and you can't always attend programs that we're putting on, this is a great place to look at. It is built with master students in mind. It's not adapted from undergraduate. It's not a sort of a PhD focused thing that doesn't sort of apply to you in many cases. It's built and designed for master students. And so the founders of this platform understand that the rapid pace of being a master student, but also the change from being an undergraduate and how these things are positioning yourself for your career next step. It's a combination of answering your questions quickly, but also providing a structured approach to it. So we'll look at some of the workbooks in a second in terms of how they can help you navigate through the sort of the content and the curricula of this platform. The other aspect of this platform that I think is really helpful is that as you may have found trying to schedule appointments with people at Career Services, the number of appointments that we actually have for students is limited by the size of our team and the large number of master students. If you want to take the most advantage of those appointments, then doing a little bit of the pre-work first before you schedule a resume review or a conversation about interviewing can be really helpful, right? So even if you have sort of an appointment scheduled, if you look at some of the content here, when you come to those appointments, you'll have a better foundation and framework to have conversations with advisors. And I think that's really helpful. And obviously, if you're waiting to find an appointment, there are some of the things that you can get insight to on this platform that you can then be doing before your appointment with a career advisor. We certainly encourage you to meet with us, to meet with our peer career advisors, especially for resume reviews, but do use this as a great foundation moving forward. I think it's really helpful. So the thing I want to do now is to take a look at some of the different sections and highlight some of the key areas that I think are going to be helpful, right? So under the deep dives, this is the best way of approaching this. What you'll see in all of these different sections is sort of the same structure, right? So there's going to be a workbook that identifies some of the key areas that you're going to be covering in the module, right? So this is the academic skills module, as it were. What's great about these books is that you can interact, take notes, iterate with the content, and make sure that you are sort of really engaging in the structure, right? And so that interactive component, that structured approach is going to be really helpful because doing everything in your head and keeping it in your head is just really hard. And I don't think it's always the most, the easiest thing to navigate through. So these workbooks are great because they keep you on task, but that also allows you to reflect on what you've learned and what you've discovered in your own time. You'll see that on the right-hand side here, there's different areas of focus throughout this module. What this one's focusing on is making the most of being a master's student by developing the skills necessary to succeed in graduate school. Some of those things you'll have to pick up quickly, especially if you come straight from an undergraduate program, but all are going to help you be more successful as you're positioning yourself for your career next steps. And then you have the video itself, right? So broken into chapters so you can skip through to the parts that you really want to identify with. So again, there's not a lot of fluff here. It sort of gets you straight to the point. And I think that's going to be really helpful. The other aspect of the program, so you can play the videos and watch them through. I'm not going to do any video playing for you right now, but they're great videos to watch. You can also take notes as you're doing that. And this sort of widget here on the screen allows you to edit and take notes that might be helpful to you. I'm taking terrible notes here. Look at that. And then you can save it, you can print it, you can download it. So you're always able then to reflect on what you're learning. A lot of the content that's online, we absorb very quickly and it sort of hits us and then evaporates very quickly. So any time that you can stop and take notes and be structured in the way that you're learning is going to be helpful. So this Take Notes widget is going to be on any page that you come across. So making the most of your graduate program, that's a great start. For some of you, you're well into your program and you want to make sure that you're making progress. Find a Career is sort of a exploration module. And what's key about this for many master students is it sort of identifies what your skills and interests and strengths, how those connect you with different career paths that are out there, right? What are the marketable skills that you have? And what jobs are right for me, right? And this is a question that we get a lot at Career Services in terms of people coming to us saying, look, I'm building this expertise, I have this knowledge, I'm taking this master's program, what can I do with this? And I think this is sort of a great starting point to begin to answer those questions. It's not the only way to explore your careers, but again, it's a nice starting point to help you reflect on what are some of your key motivators, right? What are the things that you judge to be important to you as you're looking for different types of careers that are out there? And again, there are lots of variables to consider. Some of those things are going to be variables related to location. Some of those are going to be related to salary. Some of those are going to be related to different things. So making sure that you take advantage of this is going to be a key part of that exploration process. When you have this reflection, you can certainly come back to career services with your thoughts and say, hey, this is where I am. This is what I know. This is where I'm still confused, right? So again, this is a nice foundation for what you can be doing moving forward. LinkedIn, obviously very important in terms of your networking. So they split out LinkedIn from networking, but building your profile, making sure that your summary, your headline, your experience, the other elements of your LinkedIn come to life are going to be great. Networking, what I like about the networking one is the sort of how to introduce yourself when networking, right? So sample elevator pitches. We often get people asking us about, what is an elevator pitch? How can I use that? How can I leverage that? So coming up with a nice structured approach to that. This is where that workbook is going to come in handy, because the workbook will give you sort of prompts to walk through what your elevator pitch might be. And again, elevator pitches aren't all one shape or size or used in one way, but it's a way of introducing yourself. It's what you'll do at a career fair when you're speaking to a recruiter. It's what you're doing when you're engaging with an alum, when you're doing an informational interviewing, right? So it's a really key area to focus on in terms of having that positive, confident introduction. Navigating a career fair with confidence, making sure that you're making the most out of those by being able to navigate through those confidently, especially if you're someone like me who has introverted tendencies, who doesn't necessarily find a lot of joy of being in a large room, lots of people. The online virtual fairs are a great remedy for that as well. So networking, a really great topic area to sort of focus on here. Finding and applying for jobs. What I like about this one is the fact when they talk about resumes, they talk about making impact statements, so making sure that your bullet points are clear or your summary section is impactful. STAR, in this case, we'll touch on this again for the interviewing: situation, task, action, result. These mini stories that illustrate your skills in action. That's what's so important about a resume. Modifying a resume for each job, obviously it takes time, but it's an important thing to do. So there's some great tips here. And then we get a lot of questions about cover letters, right? How do I write a good cover letter? They're much less structured, so much harder to find good advice on, but this is a nice breakdown here. International students on the job search in the US, right? So we have some great resources in addition to this platform. Going Global and Interstride are different platforms that you can leverage. But there are obviously some challenges of being on the job market as an international student. They have a few resources here that you can leverage as part of integrating strategies into your job search approach. We talked about interviewing and the STAR stories. So again, they talk about preparing STAR stories for your interview and how to answer common behavioral questions, things like the tell me about yourself question, right? The first question that you often get in an interview, a great breakdown of this. And then how to negotiate, right? We don't get a lot of practice negotiating, so any resources that you can find that sort of walk you through that are going to be really helpful. Those are the places that I'd really invest a lot of time, right? So yes, you'll have some quick questions that you'll want answers to, but the deep dives walk you through step by step, all the things that help you set a strong foundation for your career and professional development. We talked about the career video library as being a great networking opportunity, a passive networking, right? You're not actually doing the conversations, but you're learning from them nonetheless. You can download another workbook here that will sort of help you structure the information that you are collecting from these conversations. What you get may not answer all your questions, but then you can begin to list some of the questions that you would have asked, right, if you had been in that interview. And those are the questions that then you can ask when you're setting up your own informational interviews moving forward. You can do this by field, right? So you can find people in your particular academic discipline, like architects, and then you can watch their interviews, right? So this one's from someone who's working at Perkins and Will. So if you're interested in an experience there, you might gain something from that experience. And then, if you wanted to learn more about the person, you can certainly, jump over to LinkedIn and see if they're still where they are. Look at their experience and see if there's other questions that this person might have answers to. And then you could always reach out to this person, right? And say, hey, I saw your interview on Beyond Graduate School. And one of the things that you mentioned was really interesting to me. Do you mind if I reach out and ask you a couple of follow-up questions, right? So they're not in your network. They're not in my network. They're not anything to do with Penn. But because they put themselves out there on this platform, they're probably going to be slightly more open to people reaching out to them if they have questions. So even though it's a passive engagement here, you can leverage that to say, hey, I really enjoyed your conversation on the Beyond Graduate School platform. That was really interesting. So that's doing it by a sort of academic discipline. But let's say you're interested in, you have a diverse background in terms of your academic program, but you want to be a consultant. then certainly you can find people who have leveraged their background in policy and humanities and science to go into a consulting role. So Carol here is in consulting. She's working at Deloitte as a solution designer. And again, you can find her on LinkedIn, see if she's still there, see her experience, see if you may overlap in terms of your network, but still reach out if something about Carol's background is of interest to you, right? So it's never just, all here on this platform. You can take what you're learning on this platform and really leverage that moving forward as you are putting yourself out in the world and getting more answers to the questions that you have. And then when you're reaching out to someone like this, what you're trying to actually engage in is what we call informational interviewing. So on our website, we have the career guide for graduate students and postdocs focusing on informational interviewing. This is just an easy to read document that walks you through the different processes of reaching out to people, asking questions that are going to be meaningful to you and relevant to them, and then leveraging that information as you are putting together your resume, your cover letter, or stories from your interviewing, right? So it's a really great guide to do. But that's your goal, right? To take some of this passive networking, where you have all these interviews that are pre-recorded, and go out there and create your own networks, find people who have answers to the questions that you have, but use similar strategies to have those conversations with them. Use this platform, but use the other resources that we have to make sure that you are taking this information and applying it to your own career and professional development. There are regular events throughout the year that are put on by Beyond Graduate School. In fact, there's one on Wednesday on how to network when you don't have a network. And then other ones here. Sometimes they have boot camps, so they had one early in September. Maybe some of you attended that, but if you didn't, no worries, because all of the replays from that, or the recordings that they made, are available on this platform. And that's always going to be the case, right? So they'll have these events, which are great if you can attend them, but they'll always record the sessions, and then you'll have access to those afterwards. And so making sure that you're keeping a focus on other programs that might be interesting to you, I think is a really great idea, just to sort of keep these topics top of mind for you. I mentioned this 10 ways to use career services as a master's student. And so if we look at that as a resource, you'll see that the Beyond Graduate School is our number 2 resource for master's student, right? So after you set up your Handshake profile so that you can actually schedule appointments with us and see our events and see the jobs that are posted, we definitely want you to be engaging in this platform to sort of fill in some of the gaps that you might have in your career and professional development knowledge. These are some of the resources that we've identified on this flyer that we think are really important for graduate students and master students in particular. So make sure that you have gone through this and leveraged this. Our networking tools, the MyPenn and the Penn alumni on LinkedIn. If you're interested in consulting, then the Management Consulting platform has resources on applying to and interviewing at consulting. Exponent is our interview platform for tech interviews and product design interviews. And then Interstride and Going Global are our 2 platforms focused on international opportunities. Interstride especially for international students applying for jobs in the US. All of these together, along with Beyond Graduate School, are a great set of resources to have that you can leverage.